Dr. Scott, thanks for having me.
All right.
It's good to be here.
Over to you.
Paul, thanks so much for capturing this. It's awesome to have you here, man.
Oh, man, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Gents, thanks for coming over. It's nice to have you here. Please know, if you have any questions at any time, please shout. Okay. I wanted to start off, I must say that I had a swing catalyst system, one of the early ones, many years ago, and I still remember this must have been, Tim, this was before you got here. It must have been 10 years ago at the PGA show. The guys corralled me into helping them out and trying to explain a little bit of the technology. Of course, I knew nothing at the time, and there was this little short Italian-looking guy who came up to me and he said, you know, what's the deal with this and this? And I gave him some answer. The answer wasn't very good. He said, no, I got to talk to someone who knows what they're doing. And so I sent him over to Tom, I think, and it was Chris Como. And I was like, maybe I understand why you didn't like my answer so much, but I like to think that I understand the technology that much better. I will say that I haven't had the opportunity to use the dual force plates. Back in the early days, it was one plate. I did have access to the force plate underneath, the 3D force plate underneath that, but haven't used the dual plates as of yet. So a lot of my information is based on one plate. I wanted to share some information with each of you based on just some general rules. Okay, what are we going to look for when it comes to using this technology in your teaching? The first thing, Tim, we've got that system live, right? The first thing I wanted to show everybody, and Scott, I'm just going to banter. If you've got questions or if I say something wrong, please stop. Okay. The first thing I would like to demonstrate to everybody, and I always start out by saying this, is I know even the guys who created this technology, initially it was a weight plate. It was all about weight, and very quickly, very early on, we learned it's not about weight, it's about pressure, and I want to demonstrate that. Watch on the screen here. So I'm going to set up, and you'll see that camera is, I'm going to go more towards the camera. There we go. Okay, I'm going to have my weight onto my front side. Everyone see that? Okay, and if I'm not moving, you'll notice my weight and my pressure match. So I'm about 80% on my front foot here. You'll notice that as I do this, can you record this, Tim? You know how this goes. Okay, I'm 1, 2, 3. Okay, so what I did, and we'll see this here on the screen, is you'll notice in the video, I don't shift. Thank you. You see a big change in pressure, right? Okay. Notice how I'm not going to shift my weight. I'm simply going to pressure the ground. If you can stop it there, notice how I've gone from 80% on my front foot pressure, okay, to now almost 80% on my back foot pressure. And so we need to understand that as we look at this trace, as we use this technology, it's important for us to understand that we're looking at pressuring the ground, okay? What does pressure do? If we pressure the ground, we create movement. You will notice that as I did that, I ended up over here. I pushed myself off of the plate and I caused motion. And so if we're looking to shift the weight, we need to have a change in pressure, okay? And that's really what the golf swing entails. It's very important, I think, for us to just comprehend that and understand that we're not measuring weight shift, we're measuring changes in pressure that ultimately lead to weight shift. Okay? Number two, another thing, and this was, Scott helped me with understand this early on. Number two, I know whenever golf teachers get access to new technology, they go, my first question was, well, how should it be? Okay, and Scott and I were just talking about the dual plates, and there's not enough data out there to be able to go, well, this is how the trail foot should work, and this is how the lead foot should work. And early on, I went, how should it be? What should I be looking for? And really, there wasn't, and there still isn't, this magical trace, this pressure trace that we're looking for to say, hey, that's the way it should be. There are really good players who do it one way, and there are really good players who do it another way. I will say that when it comes to hitting irons, we're almost always going to see a pressure shift into the trail foot, followed by a pressure shift into the lead foot. Now it might be front or back or lots of different ways where impact is going to occur. With driver, because there's so much force being exerted into the ground, we will often see players push themselves off their lead foot and they might register or end up on their back foot, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. Okay, I would never want to see that with irons. I would never want to see that with irons. And my takeaway from that is, well, when the ball's sitting on the ground, okay, and I'm trying to deliver a downward blow, very different to ball teed up high and forwards, and I'm trying to hit up on it. Very different. Okay, and so let's just understand that there's some loose ideas that we can grasp as to how it should be, what we're looking for, but there is no set way. I've got a lady that I teach at the moment. She's really good. She plays at Stanford. She won the British Amateur, Women's British Amateur 2 summers ago. And at impact, I'm going to stand this way. At impact, she has her lead foot looking that way, her left foot straight, but she gets onto the front part of her foot. Now I look at DJ and I see DJ is there, okay? But if you overlaid this young lady really, really good and DJ from face on, they would look almost identical, but their pressure trace, I've never seen DJ's pressure trace, but you can tell when the front of their foot is up like that, they're not on their toes, okay? This girl is up on her toes like that, and she's really good. Okay, so we just need to understand lots of different ways to make this work. We've got to find functional methodology within what the player's doing. Okay, that's point number 2. Point number 3, and please feel free to fire off any questions. Point number 3, I like your sweater.
Thanks.
Very nice. I like that tiger sweater. Point number 3 is this. Let's also be aware that the position of the golf club, okay, and I'm going to talk about 2 specific things. The location of the club head and the angle of the face throughout the swing is going to influence the pressure trace. Okay. The pressure trace can influence where the club head is, where the face angle is, but we need to be aware that if I get the club head in a certain spot, that's going to allow me to move in a certain fashion. Okay, and so if you're looking at a pressure trace that makes you scratch your head, try to understand where one of these 2 things are located. Where is the club head located, and what is the corresponding face angle? Okay, okay. Questions so far? Anything? We good? Here we go. Chuck Cook. Anyone heard of Chuck Cook? Okay, I know you've heard of Chuck Cook. Chuck Cook's a famous teacher. Taught Payne Stewart, Tom Kite, Jason Duffner back in the day. Great guy, knows a tremendous amount when it comes to the golf swing. And Chuck shared this with me many years ago, and I found it tremendously helpful. The evolution of a golfer. Think of golfers, regular club golfers, as we teach. Okay, the evolution of a golfer is pretty much as follows. Most people start out as slicers in the early part of their career, hit that high weak slice, one of those, okay? As they keep going, as they get better, they learn to get that ball to curve. As a right-hander, they learn to get it to curve right to left. They learn to get that weight, their pressure up onto their front foot coming into the impact, and they learn to hit hooks. What's the next step?
Snap hooks.
Snap hooks, hopefully for a short while, correct? Okay, hopefully for a short while, but the next evolution for a golfer is for them to learn how to control their golf ball, for them to learn how to hit it straight. They know how to generate speed, they know how to strike the golf ball, but they struggle with managing the face, and their path gets a little too far into out, and they need to learn how to straighten out their ball flight. And so think of golfers that you're working with in this scale. There's 3 types of golfers, okay? You've got the early days slicer, then you've got someone who's morphed into this power, hit it longer, hooker, and then from there we're going to try to get people to straighten out and control their golf ball. And what I'm going to key in on today with changing club angles with altering forces is At what point is your student in that evolution? Are they a slicer? Are they a hooker? And then how can we help them change? Okay, that makes sense to everybody? So I'm going to start out with the slicer. Tim, if I go in this direction, is that preferable?
Yes.
I suppose so, because you wouldn't want the butt view. Okay, here we go. So, Scott, can I swing here?
Yep.
Okay, can you get this one, Tim? Okay, check this out. This is my early days slicer swing. So we go back. Okay, sorry, can you just stop? So can you go back to the very beginning? Okay, so what do we see right there? Look at, this is my lead foot on the left. What do you notice? Do I have all my weight on my left foot? No. Okay, but what percentage of golfers would you say start off with that lead side push?
Depends. I mean, long drivers do a lot of that.
Long drivers do, I see golfers do a lot.
Right, yeah.
I see golfers do, it's not as obvious, like if you watch me do that, you would never be able to tell, hey, Andrew started this practice swing with pressure by pushing off the lead foot. That gets me started, okay? And I see that with so many golfers, okay? Almost everyone has got some form of a push off the lead foot to initiate the motion. And that's part of the beauty of this technology, guys, is you wouldn't be able to see that without that. Okay, thank you, Tim. Let's keep going. So here we go back. I didn't do a very good job. Keep going. All right, this is early. I always have this little hitch. Keep going. So here we go. And what you'll see as we come down is, by the time we get to impact, keep going about impact, Tim. So you can see where that pressure is moving towards. It's moving towards my back foot. I'm never a fan of, I would say this is a four-way trace. Tim, remember that old term I used to use? Okay, where it goes backwards, forwards, backwards, and forwards. It's going four different directions. Ideally, I would much prefer someone going trail side, lead side. Okay, much prefer that, because as soon as we start to get some backing up, now the player's ability to manage the club face is somewhat compromised. Okay, but the thing that I'm trying to demonstrate here is, yes, the weight is staying back. What does that allow me to do? What does the slicer do? What do we know? Okay, what causes the ball flight? The club path travels too far from out to in, and they've got a club face that's overly open. This is the root cause, by the way, the club face. Okay, so when that club face gets overly open and the path tracks across, watch my body here from face on. As the path tracks across, because I've got to swing to the left because my face is pointing to the right and I'm trying to counter those two, well, it cuts off my body's access into my lead side. And so that forces me to stay back. Okay, so what I'm going to work with this golfer is to move them from that early stage evolution of being a slicer, and trust me, it doesn't happen overnight. It takes time, okay? It's unusual for a golfer to get this. Nobody owns it overnight. Golfers can get it, but it takes them time to get to this point where they're now going to, Tim, can you record this one? Okay, where they can get to a point where the pressure is now going to move, and you'll notice here how this pressure is moving. It's not a four-way trace, it's a two-way trace back and forward. But what I really try to feel there is I'm trying to create a downswing where the player has still got that crazy little hitch. I've had that forever. Okay, on the way through here, I'm trying to get that downswing trace to move more in this direction. I'm trying to get it onto the lead part of my foot. What's that going to do? Think about this. Okay, well, first as a coach, I need to make sure I'm going to get the club face in place. Okay, so I'm going to do, there's two things I can do. I can strengthen the grip, number one. Number two, I can change the wrist angles. Either of those are going to strengthen the face. Okay, I've got to strengthen the face. I can't just leave the face and try to work on the path. Get the face in place first, and now on the way down, I'm trying to get golfers, if I want to get them to hit hooks, I'm trying to get them to feel like they're going to stay closed as they move to the lead part of the front part of their lead foot. That's going to give them the ability to keep the arms in the club more deep, more to the inside, so that they can swing from in to out and learn to hit hooks. Chuck Cook always said to me, Andrew, get every one of your students to learn to hit a hook, and then once they do that, straighten them out. Okay, how many slicers do we see? Tons. Okay, I see tons of slicers. I'm not Chris Coma. I teach a bunch of regular golfers, and that's certainly what I aspire to do. And so I've got to be good at getting people out of slicing and into hooking. Okay, I know that sounds strange, but if you can get a slicer to hit some hooks and they start to get some distance, even if they lose 2 sleeves on the left side of the golf course and they normally lose 2 on the right, they're happy for a while. Okay, not forever, they're happy for a while. Okay, and so that's what I'm gonna do to that golfer that's learned to get out of slicing, and now we're gonna get them into hooks. Third phase, I wanna straighten someone out. Okay, I wanna straighten someone out. Tim, I'm gonna try to make a swing here, see if I can do this. Can you get this one? Can I go? Okay, subtle difference. There we go, good, got it. Okay, once again, you'll see the push of the front foot. That's that forward movement coming up right here. There's the push. And you know, the amazing thing is I'm not trying to do that. It's just something I do. I push off that lead foot. That gets me started moving away from the target. So I get into my trail foot. Okay, now what I'm going to look for, and this is irons, okay, pretty much iron. What I'm going to look for is I want to move towards the front part of my left shoe. You can see there's no heel lit up there, but watch what's going to happen as I'm coming into impact. See how my heel's starting to light up? Okay, and that's really, roll that through impact there again, please, Tim. Watch the toe here. See how that toe's coming up? Kind of like DJ I was talking about earlier. Okay, that's going to help the player neutralize the path by rotating their body, taking the handle a little bit more around the corner, and anecdotally, my experience shows me that that's going to help players manage the face better. Okay, that's going to help players manage the face better. And so if you've got a slicer, what are we going to do? We're going to try to get them to feel like they're shifting, they're staying closed, strengthen the face, they're staying closed and shifting towards the front part of their lead foot. At 1 o'clock, out towards 1 o'clock if the target is 12. If I've got a hooker, I want to make sure they don't stay that way too long, because the club's getting too far to the inside, and now they're flipping the face on the way through and struggling to control the face. Okay, if they want to get better, and yes they do, that's why they've come to see you. If they want to get better, now we've got to get them to go that way. And all I'm doing there is I'm making sure that I'm getting into my heel on the way through. I'm turning the corner. That gets me to extend this lead side. I can extend my lead side. I can pull the handle upward and inward. And those two factors, I believe, are going to help me manage the face better. Okay, Scott.
I like it.
Was it okay?
It's great. I mean, I think his progression is really good, because you'll find a lot of people that get the really steep shaft, really open face, and they've heard that you can't early extend. Well, their early extension is a necessity for them, because if you get them to keep their butt on the line, that just tips the shaft more.
Even further, yeah.
So you got to get control of the shaft and the face first, and then add the lower body stuff next. I like it.
Yeah. Here's something simple that I believe and I found for a long time to be true. What is a steep shaft? We all hear the term steep, right? Okay. What is a steep shaft? Well, a steep shaft is this. The club head is too close to the target line. Okay, if I get the club head further from the target line, it's not steep anymore. Okay, so a steep shaft is the club head too close to the target line. If I'm set up here, here's my target line. Okay, a steep shaft is that. How will golfers counter a club head that is too close to the target line? So what did I just say? A shaft that is too steep. How will they counter that? A couple of different ways. Okay, Scott just hit on one of them. What they'll do is they will either stand. Watch where the club head goes when I stand. They'll stop rotating and stand. Number two, they will push their arms out. If I push my arms out, watch where the club head goes. It gets away from the target line, okay? It becomes less steep. And so a golfer that's steep in the early downswing will invariably start to receive emergency signals that, hold on, we gotta sort this out. Yes, that'll help too. A little bit of backwards tip, okay? These are just the two basics, but most golfers will go stand and push the arms out. This is amazing. Look at how shallow I am right now, okay? There's one major problem. You've really compromised the face angle. And so what's this golfer got to do? They can't rotate anymore. They got to fling it. So now they're really reliant on timing. And that's why this early start to the downswing and really how it shows up in ground forces, okay, is so important. If you can get that club head, not the shaft, okay, it's just the club head. Get the club head in the right 3D space at an appropriate angle, you're off to the races. Okay, now you're going to get that nice, Cameron McCormick called it, this curve here, he called it the Sydney Bridge. And if you think of the Sydney Bridge, it kind of goes out and then curves back towards the heel. I like that picture, that resonates with me. Okay, because the golfer's got the face and the head in a good position to where they can go ahead and rotate. And I think the biggest difference that I see between world-class golfers and the golfers that I teach in my lesson tee each and every day is this. No rotation. You know what I call this impact? The no cheek impact. Okay, because from down the line you can see no cheeks. Okay, I want two. I want the two cheek impact. Okay, that makes sense, everybody. If it doesn't, tell me now, speak now. Anyone got questions? Questions about the technology and how it can help you with your teaching?
That's good. I think really important to understand, like just spinning to your heel and actually pushing to get to your heel is a completely different thing. So if we see a very low amount of torque on the plate and we see a heel pressure, that's a spin to the heel, which is the initial golfer who tips the shaft, and versus pushing in the lead side and getting to the heel later. So the timings and how they push, and that's what we can see on the force plate. So without the force plate, you might not know if they're pushing to get to their heel or they're actually just spinning out to their heel. So
that takes it to a whole new level, for sure. Yeah. You know, just a quick story. I was talking to someone earlier today, and 10 years ago at this very show, we were really trying to understand this tech, not quite this far, but just the basics of this technology. We were trying to understand when you hit a wedge shot, when you hit that salty little 40-yard wedge shot and it comes out nice and low with lots of spin. We were trying to understand that, okay? Because we didn't at that time. And I look at it today and I go, well, if you're worth your salt as a teacher, you know how that works. You've looked it up. The information is there. You can go and find it online. It's there for us. But there's so much more that we still got to conquer, that in the next 10 years we've got to learn. And this is the foreground of it. This is the stuff we're going to really start to understand, I believe. Whether it's golf swing, ground forces, club fitting, ball fitting, there's so much that we can learn about. We're just growing. We're getting better. And I think the everyday golfer needs to hear that message. We're learning more. We're striving to understand things in a more deep fashion so that we can help people play better golf. Okay. Guys, if you don't have any questions, that's fine. I'm going to be hanging out here for the next little while. If you want to ask me or Dr. Scott, I would recommend if you do have a question, ask him. He knows a lot more than me. Okay. If you got a basic teaching question, come to me. If you want to know some really deep stuff, go to him. Okay. Thanks everyone for hanging out. Appreciate it. Have a great night. Thanks, Scott. Thank you.